to Desire Dilemma, a podcast that amplifies immigrant voices in America. I'm Funmi Apantaku-Onayemi, your host. 50.6 million immigrants currently reside in America. They have left their countries of origin, their culture, and everything familiar to them to become immigrants in the United States. They have come for various reasons. Some came for a better standard of living, many came for education, and some came to join their families. In many cases, some left their countries to escape war, violence, and persecution. Although they came to better their lives, they often face many challenges that can affect their physical, mental, and social well-being. On Desire Dilemma podcast, we'll discuss the desires of immigrants to reside in America, the dilemmas they face as they struggle with challenges. Our podcast psychotherapist will render guidance on how immigrants can adapt to the norms of America for their own psychological wellness. With me is Mr. Lawal, a psychotherapist who is our podcast counselor. Our guest today is Mr. Ifelanwa Osundolire, an architect in Nigeria who now resides in the United States. Hello, Mr. Lawal.
Good morning.
Hello, Mr. Osundolire.
Good morning or good day. Thank you for having me.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for being with us. Welcome to Desire Dilemma. Mr. Osundolire, you left your thriving architectural work in Nigeria to live in America. What led you to that decision?
In one word, I would say family. Just for a quick context, my family had relocated since 2016. That's 7 years ago. And at the time, I opted for coming to the United States as a visitor. And I did that for 6 years. But then as the children grew older, and also with the distance between my family and I, it kind of was a wise decision to move. Just leave everything behind and be with my family. And so that was my motivation.
Okay, and since you've been here, how have you been adjusting?
It's been tough. I like to say that if my motivation had been economic, perhaps it would have been a different route. But, just being here, now being with my family, I have to fend for myself. I have to integrate myself into the society. It's been really difficult. So it's been a wave of, there are days I'm upbeat and super excited at the opportunities. There are also days that I'm depressed about the things I've left behind. Just for context, I had a very good job. I was probably upper middle class back in Nigeria. I had a comfortable life. I don't do DIY, but I'm here now. I have to do DIY. I'm unemployed. It's hard.
I think DIY means do it yourself.
Do it yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
In Nigeria, I would call a mechanic. I would call a plumber. I had a cook. I had a cleaner. Here, I have to do those things myself. And that's hard.
Yeah, that is quite an adjustment.
It is a big adjustment.
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, you have two beautiful boys.
Yes.
And so I always wonder about the fact that you're here now with both of them. Of course, I know they've missed you all those years. Now that you're here, though, what are your thoughts or concerns regarding the influence of the American culture on their upbringing and future adulthood?
That's a big question. For one, I didn't imagine settling in America. I never imagined it when we started raising a family in 2011. It just sort of happened with us. And one of my perceptions of America has always been that even though it's a place of opportunity, it's also a place where anything goes morally. And I kind of didn't like that. I would have loved to, be settled in Europe. I feel that they have a deeper cultural essence than America does. So, to answer your question, I'm coming with big biases against America, especially as, moral and cultural values. are concerned. So, and that formed my biggest issues coming here. My biggest fears were that I hope our African values would not be corrupted by what I consider to be, again, this is my bias speaking, but what I consider to be not adequate cultural or spiritual American values as I perceive it. So that was my biggest fear. And in the 1 year that I've been here fully, I've sensed, in my conversations with my children, I have sensed this clash. For instance, gender nomenclature is something we talk about when they say, what does it mean to be a man or a woman? And these are not questions they would have asked back home, or children their age ask back home. But in America, it's kind of different. There's also the issue of privileges. They say, they have a different view of what their rights are. So it's my right to watch the television. I say, no, it's a privilege to watch the television. And I can withhold that privilege from you. So there are those clashes, ideological clashes, between how their new society operates and who we are and how we operate back home.
Those are tough ones. So, Mr. Larry Lawal, would you help us? I mean, we know that we've been here for a while, and those are issues that we faced. And many a times we thought we did well. Sometimes we also have failed in our approach to our children. So, what would you say, and how would you at least guide Mr. Osundolire?
Well, first of all, we need to know how old, are your boys, Mr. Osundolire?
They are currently 10, going on 11, 7, going on 8. And they arrived here, like I said, 7 years ago, approximately.
Okay, so they arrived in the United States at a very, very young age. Okay.
Yes, one was 2. I think the other was 5 or 3 or 6, something.
Okay, what grade are they in school now?
The older one is in grade 6 now. The younger one is in grade 3.
Okay, so we are talking about, young kids.
Yeah.
Now, what you are going through is not something just unique to you. It's something that most immigrants, go through when they come, to any foreign country. Now, are the children, are they coping well with, school and other social activities?
Oh yes, they are. They are straight A students. So okay. I mean that's indicative of them coping well in school. Okay. And by my judgment, I would say they're also fairly social. So
okay,
yeah, I think so.
Okay, so what we're looking at is these are children that were brought here, and they've tried their best to kind of acculturate into the system here. And usually, a lot of people will look at what is going on in the United States and, label it with different things. But what we have to keep in mind is that it's different from where we are coming from. So if you have an open mind about it, in your statement, you said, well, you have, bias about, the cultural dimension in which this country is going. Yeah. But if you keep an open mind, it will help a lot. Okay? Like they say, it's not the challenges that we face in life that is the problem, but it's how we handle it. Yeah. Now, the way we think about it will have a lot to do with the way we feel about it. Yeah. And the way we feel about it will have a lot to do with how we react, which means our behavior. So that is what we need to keep in mind. We have children who are dealing with dual socialization. And that means, they're dealing with the social norms at home, and also they are dealing with what is going on out there. So we have to leave room to accommodate both. But the main thing is that we have to kind of have our children on a solid ground in terms of our culture, nurture them and, help them grow So that way they'll be well grounded in your values. So when they go outside, then they can make appropriate decisions. That is, the most important thing in what we are talking about now.
If I may chime in, wouldn't that be more like a tug of war, though? Because when we talk about instilling in them what we know, for example, if we think of the Yoruba culture in Nigeria, for example, which, of course, I'm a Yoruba woman, I can imagine then that having to say to them dobale, which is to prostrate, and also kunle, all of those, I don't think that will do well out there for them. And then when they come home, they are bringing to us the exposure to the American culture. And what we're saying is we're trying to hold them to the Nigerian culture. Wouldn't that be very difficult, though, for a young father?
Yes, of course, it'll be very difficult because it's not something you're used to. You're not used to children asking questions. And that is what goes on here, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So the dilemma is that you have the parents learning alongside with the children. The children are learning and you are learning too. So it's good to kind of have discussions with them, engage them in discussion, talk to them, see what they are thinking, what is influencing their behavior. If you ask them to, okay, well, you prostrate when you see an older person, then you have to kind of go the extra mile and tell them the boundaries. Because, if you say, well, when you see an older person, you prostrate, then they go to the school and try to prostrate for their teachers. And that will be a problem. They wonder, what are you doing? And they'll say, oh, yeah, that's what my dad says and things like that. That is the effect of dual socialization. You see other things going on. So you have, you have to teach them about the boundaries. This is where it starts and this is where it ends.
But if I may, sir,
Go ahead.
I have noticed some conflicts and incongruences in this approach. Because as a child's mind is impressionable. And if on the one hand, you are telling them you can do this, but in this situation, you can't do that, it creates a certain kind of conflict. And I'd like to use examples.
Go ahead.
So my youngest child, I think he's more American than the first because he got here at maybe 2 years of age. And his personality is that whenever he meets a stranger, he just goes, he has almost no filter. He just says, oh, hello, my name is this, and then that, and then we ate this morning, and this happened in our family. And most times I have to just sort of rein him in and say, you don't have to tell everybody everything. But I've noticed that in the American society, at least at my level, when I also meet others, like my neighbors here, they are quick to tell you things that I think is personal. Oh, why should I know that your son just had a baby yesterday when I'm just meeting you? So again, for me, it's at times difficult. So my younger child, I see that on the one hand, I'm telling him, you don't have to tell everybody, everything that's going on. At the same time, his older brother, I find out that because I think he's more Nigerian, he's more withdrawn. Whenever I meet a stranger, he's unlikely to be the first to introduce himself. And when they ask him questions, he just says yes, no. So it's almost like words and opposites. On one end, one is overly expressive. On the other end, I feel one should be a bit more expressive. And I can sense the Nigerianness. I can sense the conflict within them on what should I say? How much should I say? How much is enough? So they are actually, it's a tug of war, like Ms. Onayemi said. And it's something that is real. I mean, I experience it with them. So what do you think, sir? I mean, how do you draw the lines? How do you define the boundaries as not to be conflicting for a child?
Well, we have to take into consideration the personality differences in everybody. Okay, you have your personality. I have mine. The children have their own personality too. So, in the process of socialization or assimilation, everybody handles it differently. And so, when they go, the example that you use, they're very quick in revealing what is going on with them. Yeah, coming from a society like ours, where we are very conservative, as a matter of fact, we go to the extreme and be very secretive.
Yes.
About, what is going on with us. We are very guarded.
Yes.
And that set of beliefs, there are a whole lot of things that, influences that kind of set of belief. But we don't want to go into all that today, because that is a very, big topic. Why do we behave like that? But here, people are very, disclosing. And, so we just have to kind of leave room, like I said, for individual differences and, kind of help them to understand what might be what we consider not too fast, and, whenever you see that, okay, maybe this is going too fast, you can kind of slow them down, explain to them, tell them why, what are the possible problems that can result from, having to have, too much self-disclosure, and they will talk to you about what they feel, how they see it, and you just have to kind of, work with them. That is the main thing. And you yourself, you are going through it, because if you go to, let's say, a company's party, you will see everybody telling what's going on and whatever. And they'll expect for you, to kind of socialize with them. And those are the kind of things that people socialize with. Yeah. So you'll say, and if you don't say anything, then it'll be like, oh, you are withdrawn, you are not interacting, you are not whatever. So, it's good to be self-disclosing and those kind of things, but you still have to have some censor. That's what you want to kind of work with the children on. Okay, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that, but at the end, they will kind of master the socialization here, and they will do fine.
Well, I want to thank both of you. Thank you so much for your insights and tips, Mr. Lawal and Mr. Osundolire. I just want to thank you for sharing. Many a times, of course, as you know, we are quite closed in. We don't want to say too much about ourselves. So we appreciate your time and you're coming on to converse with us about being in America and the dilemmas that you have faced. To our audience, thank you for listening to our podcast on immigrants' desires to come to America and their dilemmas in staying in America. We hope that this information has been helpful and informative. Remember, adapting to a new culture can be difficult, but with the right guidance and support, it is possible. Join us again on the next episode of Desire Dilemma, a podcast to amplify immigrants' voices in America. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day.